Hello, my name is Eliezer Parrilla, and I'm an artist in West Hurley, New York. We are on our way to my studio where I would like to share with you some of my recent work, mostly assemblages, pieces coming together. I was asked recently what artist has influenced this particular work that I will share with you, and I would say Marisol Escobar, who was born in Paris, of parents from Venezuela, but worked and lived mostly in New York City. Her work shows this development of characters put into pieces with clothing and colors. Well, she has moved me greatly, and let me share with you some of the work that has inspired me here. This piece is mostly wood, and the top is aluminum. Here's a work in progress, and the advantages exist that you can take part of them and move them to different scenarios, as we say. Here's a piece done on wood, but I've used aluminum also. And here's a couple of small sculptures. Here, you can see another sculpture that I've developed, and the back is a piece on canvas. The planes that you see there are really drones. It's how drones has affected our lives in many ways, good and also bad. Some of the tools that I've been using in developing these characters is mostly, first of all, the scroll saw. And you can see some of the samples of what I've developed with the scroll saw, which I later then either paint directly or spray paint. So I have all these different materials that I used. Another tool that is very important, and that's a tool that also Marisol used greatly, it's the bandsaw. Here is an older piece that I've done, which is mostly done with the bandsaw and the scroll saw. This piece is called From Earth to Paradise. If you look at the left side, you see like the older person looking. Then there's a child learning to walk. The adult walks into death, as we see it. Let's move along. Here's another piece that I've done. Part of it is made out of aluminum, the top part, and the rest is wood. And the last piece that I would like to show you is also, it's slate on the top. Then you have metal on the slate, and then wood on wood. So these are some of the pieces that I've been working on. And this is my studio. And I thank you.
Hi, I am Melisa Thompson, an Argentinian artist living in Troy, New York since 2022. I work on mosaic art and collage art. I wanted to talk to you about a piece that is very important and I have very present, and I feel we have very things to discuss here, and it's good to bring today. This is America Invertida, Inverted America, from the Uruguayan artist Joaquín Torres Garcia. It's from 1943. It's ink on paper, and here the artist explains his thoughts about art and about the world. This artist was the founder of constructive universalism, an avant-garde movement in Latin America, and he was against the colonization of mind. This means that he thought that humans are not machines repeating the same idea or the imposed idea. So he was looking into different cultures, different times, using pre-Columbian symbols and trying to build a universal language of art. Here, in the formal aspects of this piece, we can see an upside down continent, simple lines, symbols, the ship coming, and we can see how they turned up wellness continent into an empty continent. And also, in the metaphorical way, Torres Garcia is talking about colonization of mind, because he exposes here that South America in particular, but it can apply to any continent or culture who has suffered the colonization, that we don't have to follow that north that has been imposed since forever. That's in our mind, and we have to follow our inner north. We have to follow ourselves as our own guide. This piece is very important, and I feel like it's very contemporary right now, because the artist is saying identity is important, your thoughts are very, very valuable, plurality is important, and you have to follow your inner guide. You know what you're doing, and I feel it's a very good message, and we can discuss this also or apply it to the actual world, when after the society, economical and religious impositions that we have, now we have to deal with technology, that it's fine. I'm not complaining, I'm using it, but it's like invading all the areas in our life, and I feel we can talk about that in the world of art, how we use the technology and what is the value of it. So I bring this piece because I feel it never gets old. So well, I hope you check on this artist and enjoy this piece as much as I do. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Armando Soto, and I'm a New York artist living in Troy, New York. I am also a graduate of Pratt Institute, Brooklyn, New York. My degree is in painting, drawing, and art history. I also have given art classes and workshops throughout the capital region in Albany and in Troy. The image that I'm looking at now, that I pulled out from the internet, is an image that was created by Marcus Dimas. And Marcus Dimas was born in Puerto Rico. When his parents arrived in New York City, they settled in the Bronx, where Marcus was raised. Marcus graduated from the School of Visual Arts in New York City. He also is one of the founding members and director of the Taller Boricua Julio de Burgos Cultural Center in East Harlem. His work is also shown in Puerto Rico, U.S., and the Smithsonian Institute Gallery in Washington, D.C. If we look at this image that Marcus Demas made of this particular facial expression of Eddie Palmieri, who recently passed away, okay, the musician and composer, he is very interestingly do some images in the background. In the background, he creates these images that are almost like a keyboard, symbols or musical notes that are in the background, very interesting with the texture. The image is composed on paper and has a variety of different textures in it. Whether Marcus stained the paper or whether he decided to use a tone type of paper, we could see in the image around the facial expression of the person he's portraying. What is interesting is that we see in the eyes this search as an artist that is searching for a type of musical expression, a musical note that he wants to place on the keyboard. What's interesting about the face is that at the same time, you can see that his mouth opens up to whisper something or express something in the way that Palmieri would do when he is playing music. The image has texture, and he uses pen and ink and charcoal on this paper to create some very interesting images, and he also depicts the solidity of the image in a very unique way. So you have an abstraction, at the same time a combination of realism in the sense of how he depicts this face, because he catches the shadows, he catches the eyebrow, the beard, okay, that he or the whiskers in his face, okay, and how the light hits the forehead, expressing the tone of the paper or possibly staining the paper as he probably was working, because artists like to work with their hands. A lot of times their fingers, they rub, especially if they're working with charcoal, the fingers rub against certain areas to create certain surfaces and texture across the image. Okay, there's some very interesting images in the background with cubic forms that resemble buildings or keyboards or whatever he was thinking about at the same time, because at the same time, these are abstract images placed in contrast to the face, which holds a certain type of reality to it. And at the same time, you have the stretching of the hands going forward and sort of like creating a diagonal movement, so you could understand how this composition is created. You could come in from the hand if we find a point of entry, and a lot of times we sort of like subconsciously, because the artist makes the image, so we can make a point of entry in the image that the artist posts to us or shows us how to when we're moving in a circular form. And you enter to one arm, you go around the head, capture the eyes, the expression, and then you come back to the other hand. It's a circular form that many artists use in order to create a composition in a very simple way. Okay. Along the side, we have a chair that Marcus created in homage to Eddie Palmieri and the homage of the keyboard stripped from the piano. Eddie was known to hit the piano hard in many different ways and play in a variety of different styles, okay, that he incorporated in his music. And that is shown. Also, the nostalgic pose of the keyboard on a chair. Marcus writes on Facebook, on the downbeat, the last of the ones of the big ones.
Hi, my name is Roxanna Melendez. I am an artist living in Manhattan with a working studio in Asbury Park, New Jersey. But today I'm going to be speaking about Leonora Carrington, her self-portrait. And although she was born in England, she spent a greater part of her life living in Mexico. So Mexico has adopted her as an artist. So please follow me. This is a self-portrait by Leonora Carrington, and it was done in 1937, and she was only 20 years old when she did this, and it's an oil on canvas. Leonora was born into a wealthy family of Irish ancestry in England, and as a child, she became interested in all sorts of fairy tales and folk legends. Having heard many stories by her mother and nanny became the source of her rich imagination that later on influenced her art. When we look at this work, we immediately see this large room with an open golden curtained window in the background. On the outside, we see this white horse free galloping around against this green landscape full of trees. In the inside, the artist sits on a blue chair with what looks like a red, vibrant saddle pad. Notice the legs of the chair with tiny feet and shoes and human hands as she wears this white equestrian pants with open legs in a man-like posture. Notice her high-heeled Victorian boots as well. Her arm is outstretched and her hair is full and wild as she looks directly at the viewer. Not to be missed is this hyena here, and what seems unusual. It stands in front of the artist with human-like eyes and just like her, stare right at the viewer. It seems pregnant or lactating in a nurturing way, but some may feel it menacing. It appears to be emerging out of a mist or ectoplasm. Notice the red terracotta floor. And behind Leonora, there is suspended in midair this tailless wooden horse, just as the one that she would have in her childhood nursery. But there it sits above her head on the wall behind her, suspended in midair. It is fixed and static, unlike the horse outside her window, which seems to be free, maybe a symbolic surrogate. The painting includes a sense of unease as well as magic and an overall dreamlike quality. At any rate, Carrington was destined to marry high in the aristocracy, and having attended many schools and convents, and even was a debutante at the court of King George. But she refused it all. Since early childhood, Carrington rebelled against the norm and her religious upbringing. Having spent many of her time in her childhood surrounded by animals, while she spent time in her family's country estate, she developed this personal affinity with these animals, and this became a common theme or a common subject in her paintings. The horse was a prominent animal in her work, inspired by Celtic legends. The white horse and the hyena could represent her need to escape the confines of her upbringing and serve as an expression of her subconscious desires,
a common theme in Surrealism. Surrealism was a cultural movement that developed in Europe in the aftermath of World War I as a response to the devastation and destruction of the war, and explored a variety of artistic styles. These artists were guided by unconscious, free associations to express the workings of the subconscious mind and the world of dreams. They were influenced as well by psychoanalysis and the writings of Sigmund Freud. Surrealism opened the doors for the expression of Leonora Carrington's creativity, free from social norms and inhibitions, and as a free spirit, her quest for independence eventually took her to Mexico City. There she worked closely with like-minded artists, writers, and intellectuals until the end of her life.